minutes. So let us know who's here and where you're clicking in from in the chat. That'd be great.
And as you're entering, we'd love to know what your goals are for this session or what motivated you to join. So just drop that in the chat.
A couple more minutes. I'll get started.
Does that message show up in the chat? Okay, if you're just joining us, we'd love to hear your goals for the session today. Hey, Lily. Hey, Annie. Great to see you here. If you could just drop your objectives in the chat, we'd love to know what's your goal or what do you hope to get out of it? What made you join?
Just like one more minute. We'll get started at like 10:43.
Learning techniques for balance. Great. We are going to cover that. Thank you, Peter. Supporting the dissertation topic on the value of work-life integration. Ooh. Let's do more about that.
Right. It feels like we've got a good quorum.
All right.
So we'll get started. Thanks everybody for joining us. I'm Lisa from Lettuce. I'm a consultant with the team as well as a solopreneur myself, working on marketing and communications. Very quickly for this session format, we're going to run a little under 40 minutes because we gave you time to get on over from what I understand was a really great keynote. We will have time for Q&A at the end, so please pop it in the Q&A or pop it in the chat. We'll be watching and trying to organize the time as it goes. And then let's get going because Katy has a lot of really good content for us. So we know that as solopreneurs, it's a struggle to balance work and life, and oftentimes that's why we've chosen this chapter. Katy is going to bring to us the Stanford University renowned design thinking methodology to help us solve that challenge and really embrace this life we've chosen. She's a certified Design Your Life workshop facilitator, helping independent professionals make intentional choices about their energy and time. She's going to draw on her experience working with other entrepreneurs and tech companies like Google and Meta and help us give some tools for creating our approach to solo business. So Katy, take it away.
All right, thank you. Can everyone hear? Someone mentioned in the chat that they were having audio challenges. I only saw it from one person, so I'll assume that everyone else is okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Katy Mogal, and I am, in a previous life, I did UX strategy and research at bunch of high-tech companies that you've heard of. And in those roles, I did a lot of workshop facilitation, which was something that I really loved and got passionate about. And so today I'm a solopreneur, like I guess most of you. And the kind of thread that runs through the work I do now, which is being a DYL facilitator, still consulting in the world of UX and working in startup advisory, is empowering people to design lives where they thrive. So a little bit about designing your life overall. The goal of this is to provide people with a process and some tools and mindsets that help them build their ability to navigate through career and life. And in the Stanford class and in the live workshops, you do that in the context of a supportive community of live designers. Many of you are probably aware of the history. So two professors at the Stanford Design School were noticing that people were having a really hard time figuring out how to sort of plan their path after Stanford. And so they decided to try taking the techniques from the design school that they use to design products and services and apply it to the life path. And so that's how we got to this course. And there are now public-facing workshops. There's a best-selling book, Designing Your Life, and there's been a couple of other books written, Designing Your Work. And we do, small online webinars like this. And the course has become the most popular elective at Stanford. So I think it's really speaking to people. So today we're just going to have a little taste. We're going to introduce the life design framework. We're going to think about what's our own wicked problem to solve. We're going to use the balance assessment tool from the program. And then we're going to work on designing an incremental change using the prototyping tool. And then at the end, we're just going to do a bonus challenge that's part of this post-conference challenge. So I'll introduce the module Design Your Energy and then give you the materials to do it on your own afterwards. Feel free to drop questions in the chat as we go. So let's talk about this idea of design thinking. So there's different kinds of thinking to solve different kinds of problems. Engineering thinking is where we have a really bounded problem. We want to build a bridge. We use formulas, we use science, we have manuals. So we solve our way forward. Business thinking is where we have some metrics, we have targets we're trying to reach, like revenue and sales. So we are optimizing our way forward. Research thinking, we develop hypotheses, we look for data to support or invalidate our hypotheses, we're analyzing our way forward. In design thinking, what we're doing is we're conducting a series of small experiments and we're building our way forward. And design thinking is really suited for what we call wicked problems. And many of you have probably heard this term, wicked problems. So these are problems that are not like other problems. They're not bounded problems. You can't solve them with money. Maybe the problem's not even that well defined. And so you need something really unique. And if we think about the problems we have in our lives, navigation in our careers, life events like losing a job, losing a big client, your kids leaving the nest, creating boundaries between your life and your work. All of these are wicked problems that we can't use manuals and formulas to solve. And so to ground us in the process that's used at Stanford and in the Life Design Lab, it follows the process that Stanford Design School really popularized and made accessible. So a lot of people around the world practice design thinking. This is just the way that Stanford has articulated it. So we start with empathizing. And in the product design world, that means developing a deep understanding about the values and the needs of your users so that you can find problems to solve for them with new products and services. In life design, of course, the user is yourself. And then we move to problem definition. Problem definition is really important, and people tend to not give this step enough love. And it was either Albert Einstein or Thomas Edison said, if I have an hour to solve a problem, I'm going to spend 55 minutes on the problem and 5 minutes on the solution, because we don't really need to solve a problem that isn't actually a worthy problem. So we spend a lot of time trying to define the problem we want to solve. In the case of life design, it's the life problem that we want to solve for ourselves. And then we're going to ideate. So many of you have probably participated in ideation. This is brainstorming to generate lots and lots of ideas. It's a focus on quantity and creativity. And then we move into the prototyping step, which is where we choose a few ideas to sort of take a little further, represent in some way through a drawing, a storyboard. When I worked at Fitbit, we actually built, prototype watches that we strapped onto people, and then we test and we get feedback, and then we iterate. And the process looks linear, but actually you can move back and forth through it. So sometimes when you build a prototype and test it, you find that you didn't actually define the problem correctly, and so you go back and you redefine. So it's something that you can always be cycling through. In the life design process, we've added another step, which is called accept. And the idea here is that we need to be in a place where we really want to accept a solution. So we only want to embark on this journey if we're really ready to move through it and make the changes that the solutions imply. Designers have a lot of tools to get them unstuck when they're facing problems. And it's not that they get stuck less than other people, it's just that they have these toolkits that they can apply. And so we use these in life design as well. So one is radical collaboration. So when we have a full workshop, we're working with a group of people, and we do a lot of breakout sessions in 2s and 3s where we get feedback on our ideas. Reframing is a very powerful tool. And the idea is that you're looking at a problem through a different perspective to open the solution space. And to give you an example, let's say I want to plan a birthday party for my mother. And I say, oh, okay, how might I plan the best party possible? Well, I've baked my solution into my problem statement. I'm throwing her a party. What if instead I say, how might I celebrate my mother's birthday in the most fabulous way possible? Then I've opened the solution space. I can take her to a concert. We can go on a trip. We can go to a spa. So reframing is a really useful tool. Curiosity is a very important mindset. And many of you probably know in Buddhism, they have this idea of the beginner's mind. And so the idea is that you're entering this journey with an open mind. You're not trying to bring your expertise and feel like you've already, the answers and the solution. You're just getting curious, you're observing, you're noticing. Mindfulness of process. So knowing where we are in the process is really useful because it allows you to be very present, knowing where you're going to go next. It relieves some of the anxiety of trying to solve a problem. So in each phase of this, I'll be telling you which step we're using in the process. And finally, one of the most important steps in design is bias to action. So in Silicon Valley, they say ideas are cheap. And the way that we really learn is we try something, we build something, we do an experiment, and we see what happens. So what we really want to do is try new things. So how are we going to apply that to balance? In this mini exercise today, we're going to do a little bit of empathy. We're going to do some problem definition. We're going to do a little bit of ideation, and then we're going to come up with a prototype. And the tools we're going to be using are reframing. We're going to be operating with curiosity and that beginner's mind, and we'll be mindful of the process. So before we dive in, let's talk about the social framing of balance. So when I say balance in our lives, what's the sort of common narrative that comes to mind for you? What comes to mind when I say balance? If you could just type it in the chat, we'd love to hear what comes up for you all when I talk about balance. Peace. Ooh, I love that. Anyone else want to jump in? Feeling nourished in everything we do, time allocation, great. Not working too much, having time for you and others, awesome. Equal, okay. So that's interesting, this idea of equal and lack of anxiety. Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? Harmony. So the thing that we tend to talk about when we talk about balance is work-life balance, right? People talk a lot about work-life balance. And the challenge in this narrative is that it suggests that we have to maintain this balance between two things. And we can't let the scale tip too much in one direction. And the problem with that is it doesn't really provide us a lot of room for creative solutions. So in life design, we reframe balance. And we say our lives are multidimensional. So you think of your life as a portfolio. You have work, and for a lot of us, there's paid work and unpaid work. So many of us are taking care of kids, taking care of elderly parents. In the sandwich generation, we're taking care of both. So there's a lot of unpaid work going on, and there's paid work. Play, which we define as anything you do simply for joy or fun that doesn't really have an objective. Love, which we think of as not just romantic love, but your family, your friends, close colleagues, anyone where you'd say you care about them and they care about you. And finally, we think about health, and health includes mental and physical health. And so these are the elements that we want to bring into balance in the life design framework. And so we're going to do a quick exercise where we're actually going to look at our own balance. We're going to assess our balance. So we're going to use this tool. We're going to be empathizing and defining the problem. And you don't have to start yet, but after I walk you through it, you'll just grab a pen and some paper and draw a dashboard that looks like this. And what you're going to do is think about your balance as fuel gauges. So mark how full is each of your gauges in each area of your life, work, play, love, and health. And when we say full, we really mean satisfied. So we're not talking about time, we're talking about satisfaction. And then we're going to ask you to notice what's working for you now and what's not working so well when you look at this, this dashboard you've filled out. And then we're going to ask you to define that wicked problem you want to solve that would make the biggest difference in your life. So you'll just put a red arrow on one area that you want to improve. So what does this look like? For me, work is great. I've just launched an LLC with a signature client. I'm planning a Design Your Life retreat later this year in Rome. Play has dropped a lot now that I'm getting a lot of work. Love is great. I've got a close family, strong community. I am missing a lot of friends back home, so it's not full. And health is great, probably because I'm not working full-time in a company anymore. I have energy, I get exercise. Living in Rome, the diet probably could use a little work, but overall, I feel really good about this. And one thing I should say is we're not striving for full in every area. We're just trying to identify where we're not full enough and how we might bring that gauge up to be fuller. So for me, it's kind of obvious my play gauge is pretty low right now. And so I'm going to ask each of you to just grab a pen, and I'm going to leave this slide up. And I want you to just do your dashboard. I'm going to give you 3 minutes, and I'm going to play some music. And just want you to go ahead and mark the gauges and just think about what's working and where the tank just isn't full enough right now. And then for the area that would make the biggest difference in your life, if you had more balance, put a red arrow. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and give you 3 minutes, and you will see the music widget has a timer. So go ahead and get started and drop any questions in the chat. Okay, 1 more minute and we'll move along. Okay. Let's go ahead and keep moving. So now what we're going to do is our first design exercise. We're going to design a balance prototype. So go ahead and reflect on your balance assessment in that one area where you've got the red arrow. For me, it was play. And you're going to design 1 or 2 incremental changes that something that you could do next week to improve your balance. And I'll show you an example. But first, I'll talk you through some tips. So most of us probably ambitious people, and we've been, told through our lives in academics and in work, you want to set the bar high, achieve as much as you can. In design, life design, we say, set the bar low. We want to do small experiments and do them quickly and learn fast. And there's a couple design elements you can think about as you design this intervention in your balance. Re-prioritization. So for me, play probably hasn't been enough of a priority. So maybe you move it up to the top of your list. Resequencing. Maybe I need to move play opportunities further up in the week so that I don't just keep pushing them off and saying, yeah, I'll get to it. I do this a lot with the gym. I say like, I don't have to go Monday because I can go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but then it becomes Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then it ends up not happening. So resequencing things, front loading things that matter to you. Reframing. There was a great piece on the Designing Your Life blog recently about the problem of the commute now that a lot of people are being told to return to office. And so we've been hearing a lot of people say, I'm really stuck because I didn't have to commute and now I have to commute 2 hours a day. What if you reframe it as an opportunity to address balance? So if I'm thinking about my play bucket not being full enough, I could listen to a funny podcast on the way to work. I could watch a sitcom if I'm taking public transportation. If my love bucket needs a little filling, I could call a friend. So reframing this reframing things as opportunities to find balance. 2-for-1 activities. So if I can go hiking with a friend, then I get love and health. So it's a great way to get a lot of balance in a little time. So as you look at your assessment and think about designing this prototype, think about some of the insights that emerge. And so for me, when I did this, I noticed, okay, work is taking over. It's really full. It's the fullest bucket. And that's great. But play is really important to me personally. And I notice that when I don't have enough play in my life, I feel unenergized. I feel out of balance. I get really grumpy. And if I'm not intentional about scheduling play, it's probably not going to happen. So if I just like wing it and say like, yeah, I find some time to do something fun in the week, it's probably not going to happen. And Barbara made a really great point in the chat. She said, something about, do we feel guilty because there's a lack of play? And I think this is something that is hard for a lot of us ambitious people to say, I'm going to make time to do something that doesn't have an objective and it isn't going to be measured. So I myself had to sort of get over that hurdle. And I think that's great noticing that we probably have a lot of guilt associated with that. Okay, so my action to prototype is I decided, and this might have been setting the bar too high, probably didn't set it low enough, but I said, okay, like many of you, I have a weekly calendar planning session where I schedule all the things that are going on. I said, I'm going to find 3 play opportunities during the week. Could be coffee or a dog walk with a friend. I'm just going to do it. And then in the context I'm living in, where my son goes to an international school that has a very social community, and a lot of things just pop up on WhatsApp. We're going to this museum or doing this tour. And I decided I'm going to intentionally say yes to at least one of these every 2 weeks. So that's the change that I decided to prototype, and I'll let you know how that went. So now we're going to do another little exercise where you are going to design your incremental changes. So just 1 or 2 that you could really easily do that could really help that bucket that you put the red arrow by. So once again, I'm going to play some music and you will see the timer And you can go ahead and start designing that prototype. Okay, one more minute. Okay. So I'm going to go through some key takeaways, and then I'm going to ask you to share your designs with, or your prototypes with us. But the key takeaways from the balance session are design thinking is best suited for these wicked problems that are unbounded, unpredictable, and messy, like our lives. And framing balance as work life and this perfect equilibrium becomes a zero-sum game. So looking at it as a portfolio, and you can make adjustments over time, allows for more creative solutions. It's important to define what balance means to you and to assess how you're doing, especially during key life transitions. So this is something you can repeat as your situation changes. There's all these techniques and design elements you can use: reprioritization, 2-for-1 activities. And the main point with design your life is that you can intentionally design your life. There are tools, mindsets, processes you can use to make it an endless process of building your way forward as things change. And speaking of that, I wanted to show you when I first joined a Design Your Life workshop as a participant. This was my assessment. I had just left Google and I didn't know what I wanted to do next. And work was pretty low. I felt, really unsatisfied. I didn't want to retire. I wanted to feel purpose and be engaged, but I didn't know what I was going to do. Play was really high. And love and health were pretty much the same. And so I think for a lot of solopreneurs, this is the reality that, sometimes it's kind of feast or famine. And so sometimes you're just full of work, and then other things go by the wayside. And then other times work, ebbs and flows, and then you get frustrated about that. And so this is a really valuable thing to do, as your situation changes, to just keep reminding yourself, what are the interventions I can take to bring myself back in balance? And affirmations count. And what we mean by that is people who put things to paper, in this case in a chat, or say them out loud, are more likely to actually do them. Research shows that. So anyone who feels comfortable would love to hear, what is the step you're going to take when you leave? So what is your prototype? And you can just go ahead and drop those in the chat. And while you're doing that, I will share that I haven't really hit my numbers in terms of play, but being intentional about calendaring it every week has definitely made me more aware and more successful at doing it. Okay, who wants to drop a prototype in the chat? While you do that, I'm going to move on. As I mentioned, we have reach up and meet up with a non-family member to find what play means to me. Great. Love to see these affirmations. We talked about a challenge module. So post-conference, there is this challenge, this 30-day challenge. And I'm going to walk you through how you can do an energy assessment and design an energy prototype on your own. So energy is basically the fuel that allows us to accomplish the things we want to accomplish. And so it makes sense that we would want to observe and notice the things that give us energy and the things that take away energy. And then there's a concept of flow, which many of you are probably familiar with, where you're so engaged in something that you really lose track of time and it doesn't feel like work. And so the task here is to create an energy map. And what you want to do is make a bar chart, and this is all going to be in a handout that's going to be available at the end of this session. So on the vertical, you're going to map your energy. Obviously, the higher the bar up top, the more energy you're getting. And the lower below the horizontal, the more energy you're losing from an activity. And you want to take a week. It can be a typical week, it can be last week, but pick a week and do it in chronological order. There's a reason for this. And then put a star on any activities where you feel like you're in flow. And I will show you mine. So I'll just take you through 2 days. So a couple of weeks ago, I did this. I did a walk around an archaeological site, an ancient Roman bath at night with my kid and my dogs. And we were at this beautiful site, and the dogs are a lot of fun. And we just had a great talk. I really wasn't thinking about time at all. So that for me was a flow activity. And then I did my Italian lesson, and I love my Italian teacher. She's amazing. So I always feel energized, but it's work. So it's a little energy draining. And then I did some interviewing for an accelerator that I work with, and it involved a lot of technology. And so even though I love it, I love this work, it was pretty draining because I had to figure out the Zoom and the breakout rooms and the this and the that. And then on Tuesday, I had a brainstorming lunch with a friend. Again, it was a flow activity. We got really generative. It was really exciting. I went to CrossFit, which is always a great sort of way for me to cleanse my brain. And then I worked on a LinkedIn post. And probably a lot of you are trying to use social media to build, or probably using it successfully to build up your businesses. I always really struggle, and I really agonize over everything I'm saying. And I worry about people commenting and going like, why would I want to hear this? So it causes me a lot of anxiety. And then I did some prep for this workshop, which was fun, but I also, it was a lot of work, and it was kind of draining. And so what can I do with this information? Well, again, I can design an assessment, and I can design an intervention, and that's the challenge for you. So reflect on your energy assessment and the givers and the drainers. Notice if you have flow activities, and then design some incremental changes. And we have those same techniques that we had for balance. So re-prioritization, reframing, resequencing, and also several more that are explained in the handout. And so the challenge is to design 1 or 2 incremental changes that you could prototype, test them out. For me, a couple of things I noticed is that I had 2 flow activities back to back. And flow isn't actually that common. In fact, a lot of people don't experience it at all. And that's something to notice and think about. But what if I put them, 3 or 4 days apart? Because I probably don't need them bunched up. If I did that, I'd probably feel more energy in that week. So that's a change I can make. And so you see these 2 activities 2 days in a row. And then the things that give me energy are being with other people in a sort of relaxed and generative state. So that's something to notice and potentially prototype. And then the last thing I noticed is all these things where the bars are really low have to do with working with tech and being online, and especially using Zoom. And those tend to really drain my energy. And that's just, I probably still have to do them, but I can think about putting other activities in between them, taking breaks, spacing them out. So that brings us to the end of the session. We have a couple minutes for questions. I want to thank all of you for your participation and the gift of your time. And also, if you'd like to go deeper, in addition to the great books that are available on Amazon or wherever you prefer to buy books, there are workshops, and we've actually got one planned for November in Rome. And we have created a website. We've just opened our preliminary website. So if you're interested, you can click on the link and go there, and we'll be in touch. So thanks again. That's our session.
While you guys are thinking of your questions, I want to take a moment to let you know of a couple offers we have coming out of this session. First, in case you didn't see it pinned at the top, Katy is hosting a retreat in Italy later this year to be working on Design Your Life. So you can click on that link to find more information and get on her radar screen. Secondly, Lettuce has 2 offers for you. The first is attendees for today will get a free month when you sign up for Lettuce using code SOLOVIP. And lastly, we encourage everybody to join our Lettuce Solo Challenge. To keep the learning coming out of the Solo Summit, we will be giving a little challenge a day for the next 30 days, starting on March 3rd, to give everyone a chance to practice what you're going to learn in the next couple days.
So there was a question in the chat, is it important to join in person or can we read the book? And that's a great question. And I will say that having done both, the book is great. The benefit of being in the retreat is that first of all, you're really immersed in it. It's more like the experience of taking the class at Stanford. You work with a group of life designers, you practice with facilitators. So it's a completely different experience and really a great way to build the habit. And there are follow-ups afterwards with that same community to allow you to practice and continue to reinforce it. So thanks for the question. And I dropped my email in the chat. If anyone wants to follow up with other questions, I'd be happy to talk about life design.
I'm just having a little technical difficulties, so I can't see the chat anymore. So, Katy, if you can see any other questions you want to pop in and answer.
Those were the questions.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, Gabrielle has a quick question. How do you test and learn the right ways to set achievable goals? It's such a good question. And it's, that setting the bar low, doing small experiments. So even I found that my 3 days a week play was a little too much. So maybe next time I start with 1, just scaling back our expectations. So great question. Thanks for that. Thanks, everyone. Really great seeing all of you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.